Hey, Boblin. So, I just want to discuss a little bit about the topic of wisdom versus knowledge and what that may mean if there is a difference, or our understanding and reasons and logic versus just what is soul wisdom, right? And sort of just discuss a little bit about that. And so getting into it, there's so much use in going out into the world and discovering all of the different channels that our brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers, and sometimes even children have set up, right? There's so much use in expanding our horizons and sort of looking into new things that we may not understand or have a full grip over, or fully be able to wrap our head around, right? And this is where there are a lot of things that we may encounter in terms of just factual logic and arguments and stuff like this, that when we go out there into the world, we learn, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that applies to our nature. And so we can talk indefinitely about our particular nature because it's you. You can continually look into your life and truthfully be a messenger of your nature, right? So that's where you have soul wisdom when it comes down to your experience. And when you're talking through or about your experience, you'll never be in the wrong. Like, you may be fucking an asshole, or you may be like, giving way too much to a singular person to where you're not like taking enough for yourself. But by definition, you're not going to be wrong if you're just talking through your experience, right? Because that's just going to be innately connected to your soul wisdom. And then through trades and relationships with nature or our brothers, or however we learn to function in the world, then these experiences are inherently a part of our character in which we can speak for, right? And that's sort of I feel like where wisdom comes into play, because it's not something that I need to figure out. It's something that has now become an inbuilt process that I can elaborate from, right? Just as I can describe nature or the experience around me, because I'm always living through natural processes. So I can see like how the leaves grow and come out in spring and decay, and then they like completely fall. I can map onto our natural processes, like literally the day cycle, right? And even life and death, right? And like stuff like this. And we can see like how waves and nature will correspond to things like breath, right? And this sort of correlation, right? And that's because I'm always vibing in relationship to the nature that I'm in, right? So there's a solar solar connection there, where there's wisdom that we can speak through naturally. So, which is why like the weather becomes one of the easiest ways just to connect on a broader level, right? If it's like crazy nice day or it's like crazy stormy, like that's gonna be it's a shared solar experience that we all can draw truth from, But then there comes down to a lot of things where we may not know so much, or we're hearing things, and a lot of it becomes hearsay, to where we might have knowledge and we may even have a lot of trust in where that knowledge is coming from, but that's not necessarily something we're experiencing in our life. So that's to sort of realize then when things are affecting our inherent basis of knowledge, right? Versus when information is just coming in and out, and knowing the difference between your actual business and relationship with the world being affected, such that you need to defend yourself or like support yourself in whatever ways and like reorient, right, to make sure that you're okay. Versus when information's just coming through and you're not necessarily involved like that, right? So that's just understanding where you can put your faith, or like really just put your word, right, is in your wisdom and the knowledge that comes through. But a lot of things we may learn or we may have access to via other people, right? But when we're given that information, a lot of that, unless sort of we take up in our own lives, right, becomes it becomes like sort of like hearsay in a way, where you end up maybe defending or expressing things that aren't necessarily attached to your experience, right? Such that there's kind of this dissonance that happens, right? And that's sort of understanding we should search for knowledge, right? And go out there and like keep open ears, right? But then understand when things are really resonating and manifesting and connecting to our experience that we can speak through, or they're just more something that we should keep aware of. And if we're going to speak about, we should do it a little more cautiously and not more like ways like we understand what's going on, right? Because a lot of times information is just coming through that, and information sort of like air, right? Like can just be like this gust of wind that comes through and feels like there's going to be a lot behind it, but there's not, right? And other times it's like, you know, there's not even really a gust, and then all of a sudden it feels like it's stormy out of nowhere, right? And you're like, how didn't I see this coming? So that's just sort of where it would be like all of a sudden your actual physical circumstance is affected by something, right? And now it's like everything around you is pointing to news that you are actually a part of this event that you should be expressing, right? Because now it is your knowledge and it's connected to your solar experience, where now you need to be a messenger of the tides changing, right? So people that have their ears open can look, and because maybe they could actually see that starting to affect their area, but they wouldn't have done that otherwise, right? But that's why you should always be cross-referencing the information you're getting with your business, right? And what's going on in the world around you, especially in this technological age where we can get information from across the world. You know what I mean? Like, so just be careful out there with sort of the stances you take when it comes down to what you're expressing for, and make sure that that's aligned with your solar wisdom, right? Keep your ear open to new knowledge, right? But don't stand on knowledge that you don't necessarily have to point to in your own life, that you can't reference at ease, right? Like I said, if a knowledge is your knowledge, you're going to be able to look at it in any which way, just like your body, right? And you're going to know all the different ways in which it works and stuff like this, such that when you're speaking about it, there's an endless amount you can go. Versus if you're sort of in a sort of place where you're just kind of hearing things and now you sort of want to like run with it, right? You may only have so many facts, and then when you get counterference, right, people sort of arguing, you're not going to have enough to defend yourself, and you may get in your feelings, right, and sort of feel a sort of way because now you're sort of trying to defend an opinion that wasn't actually really yours in the first place, because it's not actually rooted in your experience. It's just your experience has you vibing with people that have other experiences, right? So that's really important to them, and it's probably something that someone that you heard it from could argue, right? But it's not really your wisdom. So when you step into that space and try to argue for something that isn't a part of your space, right? It can really just leave you without sort of armor in a way, because you won't have, like I said, you won't have all the wisdom and the different understandings in order to express that in a multitude of ways, even if there is something to it, right? You need to sort of wait to integrate things into your life before you present things in a way where it's matter of fact. But there is always a time where when you're just hearing things, you can always present things in a way where it's up in the air, right? Where we can sort of get to see the sort of and get more clear cognizance on what's going on, right? So it is, like I said, important to like look for what's going on and like see how maybe the tides might be changing, but like I said, always cross-reference that and then speak as a messenger from your soul wisdom, right? But you're still letting sort of the air breathe and sort of open up your current, right? Such that you're not completely guarded and you're still like because there are chances where you could see, say, like the rain before it comes, right? Or like, right, people are warning you of things in your life and stuff like this, and you do have a chance to sort of open up and listen to this information and see that, oh yeah, I am slipping in these areas that I may not have noticed, right? So it's just yeah, just a balance, right, between cross-referencing what is just a part of your experience and your soul wisdom, right, but then still understanding that as we are expressions of the human being, even our particular reason or our particular soul is a reason of humanity, so it's going to be a focus or a spotlight in that we're a particular soul, right, we're a particular focal point of humanity. So already, like I said, there may be a lot then that we are based in, that our soul is rooted in, that we may not see, right? We may not see because we may feel like we're doing all good, right? But this is how sort of the unconscious works, and we don't necessarily see all the ways in which we could be doing better or are misaligned, right? Where other people could actually realize that and open up to that idea, right? So it's like, so like I said, it is a balance, because no matter what, there is always a process of, opening up to sort of what we may not be able to see, right? And a lot of times people in our lives can be a great vessel of that, like along with dreams and things that we don't necessarily want to realize within ourselves or like dive into within ourselves. And just sort of anything, right? It's what we don't have control over, right? Which is why our dreams can put us in experiences that we're like, what the fuck? Like, what was that, right? That we wouldn't necessarily actively produce, right? Because it's like the contrast to what we're actively producing that can give us insight, right? So like that's where there is insight, like I said, to be gained and all the information up in the air. But like I said, you really need to be like paying attention and on your ones and twos or whatever, so that you know that you're not acting on information that isn't yours, right? And you're making sure that that's rooted again in your circumstance. So I feel like I've rounded about that enough times. So hey, bubbling.